So I think it's no secret that the heavyweight division is one of the worst divisions in the UFC. Matter of fact, I believe that it is the worst division in the UFC. And let's keep it real here for just a minute. These heavyweights just aren't really that good. Outside of the top 5, there really isn't much talent here at heavyweight. And I believe it is one of the smallest divisions in the UFC with only, I believe, 36 fighters in it. So in my humble opinion, I do declare the heavyweight division pretty much trash. Now, I can't sit here and just rag on all these UFC fighters. I can't sit here and just diss the entirety of the division. I have to do my due diligence as a fan of the sport, as a guy who covers MMA for a YouTube channel. I need to do my part in giving some of these fighters some grace, man. Give them a few compliments, give them a pat on the back, tell them what they do well, what they can improve on, because this division's trash, man. I hate to say it, but you've already probably seen the thumbnail and the title. You know what this video is. I'm going to go ahead and go through every single UFC heavyweight on the roster right now and give them one good compliment and one good criticism. So with that, I'll be forced to compliment some fighters who I really don't like, and I'll be forced to criticize some fighters who I really do like at heavyweight. For this, I'll try to be as nice as possible, but I might have to say a few things about Jon Jones once we get to him, if you know what I mean. But he's coming later. Stick around if you want to see that. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into this. Now, as you can see, there's a black screen right next to me. I'm going to unveil each fighter one by one and give them one compliment and one criticism at the very least. I might double up on some criticisms. I might double up on some compliments. Who knows how this is going to go? But at the very least, you know, somebody's getting insulted and somebody's getting complimented. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the first fighter of the heavyweight division, and that's going to be Hamdy Abdelwahab. Now, Hamdy Abdelwahab, I like Hamdy Abdelwahab, you know, because his name is really unique and it's fun to say. So with his name, I really do enjoy saying Hamdy Abdelwahab, but this guy popped for roids, man. He's a roid cheat. Let's be real here. Chris Barnett. Now, Chris Barnett is a really funny guy. Like, he's a really good personality, has a really fun fight style, does a lot of spinning wheel kicks, has a spinning wheel kick KO on his resume in the UFC. He does front flips when he KOs people. Like, he is the pinnacle of a fun fighter in the UFC. Now, what I don't like about Chris Barnett is he gasses out a bit, man. I wouldn't call him terrible at fighting, but he's not somebody who really goes out there and wows me with his athletic ability. Actually, he does. For how big he is, I mean, I know he cuts down to heavyweight, bro, but he's definitely bigger than 265. And him doing front flips, landing on his ass, and him doing spinning wheel kicks, very fast, by the way, is really, really impressive for a guy his size. But that's about all he kind of has, really. I believe he has that Taekwondo background, and that's really all there really is to his game. There isn't really much outside of that, like no grappling game. He also gasses kind of consistently in his fights. But overall, I do like Chris Barnett. He has a really fun personality, has a really fun style. I am looking forward to his fight in the future that is here soon. I forget who he's fighting on top of my head, but I am looking forward to it. I can't wait to watch Chris Barnett fight. I just think that he is overall very simple when it comes to his fight style. Like, you know what you're in for when you fight Chris Barnett, and I think he can be countered quite easily with that style. And maybe he needs to improve on trying to work some more grappling into his repertoire, if I'm being honest with you. But Chris Barnett, I like him. Shaun Sharaf is the next fighter on this list. Now, Shaun Sharaf just fought Junior Tafa, and he looked horrible. Let's be real here. He looked completely awful. Gassed out within 2 minutes of that fight. He was taking deep breaths, gets TKO'd. At one point, he could have actually finished Junior Tafa. I believe at the end of the first round, he had full mount on him against the cage and was landing big ground and pound, but he gassed out nevertheless, came out in the second round, and pretty much got whooped on because he had literally nothing left at heavyweight. So my criticism for Shaun Sharaf is, I mean, it was on short notice, but get that gas tank up. Even on short notice, you shouldn't be gassing within one round. I don't care. You should at least have 3 rounds of good cardio in you, honestly. But I think on short notice, you should at least have a good solid 2 rounds of cardio in you, and he just didn't have that. But to give him a compliment, he did look like he had pretty decent boxing. I think he looked better than Junior Tafa on the feet for the most part in the early parts of that fight. Obviously, he can go for takedowns as well. We saw him go for one against Junior Tafa. Overall, he seems like he's a very well-balanced or well-rounded fighter. Just needs to work on that gas tank, man. It's tough seeing that for a heavyweight. Now, for our next fighter, Robelis Despaigne. Now, Despaigne's probably pretty easy to compliment. Kind of a low-quality picture. I'm sorry about that. But, I mean, dude's a huge monster of a man. He's big, tall, has a really fun fight style, gets KOs. Overall, like, can still be a good prospect at heavyweight. One downside to him is that he's very inexperienced and he can be taken down. Like he did get taken down in his last fight and he lost, which was against, I forget who it was, Waldo Cortes-Acosta, right? Shouldn't be losing to Waldo Cortes-Acosta. That shouldn't be happening for a guy of this stature. This genetic beast of a man should not be getting beaten by Waldo Cortes-Acosta. It is what it is. Overall, again, very powerful guy, very fun guy to watch. However, he might just be mid in hindsight. But moving on to Austin Lane. Now, Austin Lane, I mean, man, like he's an athlete, was in the NFL, came into the UFC, but he's chinny, man. He is quite chinny. It's tough out here. A lot of these football players, man, they come into the UFC and they're already chinny like Greg Hardy because they've already spent their entire life playing football, taking head trauma, then come into the UFC. And yeah, they're carried by their athleticism, but then they can't take any more head trauma because their brain's already mush. So it is what it is. It happens for Austin Lane. Overall, not actually kind of talented, honestly, for Austin Lane. But again, it's tough when you can be chinned. And when you're coming into the game so late into your life, you just don't have the advantage like some other fighters have, right? Like fighters who start out when they're younger have that brain elasticity. They can get better over time. And Austin Lane just came in when pretty much football didn't work out for him. So it is what it is. He is athletic, but just came into the sport too late. So he isn't really that impressive. Junior Tafa. Now, Junior Tafa, yeah, you got power. Like he's a powerful guy, powerful heavyweight, but I mean, let's work on the gas tank, man. Again, this was the guy that Shaun Sharaf fought, and that was, again, neither of them had cardio. I'm pretty sure Tafa was on full camp for that fight, if I'm not wrong. Should not be happening. Like, you should not be gassing out in the first round whatsoever at heavyweight. You are a UFC fighter. You are at the pinnacle of athletic ability. You have made it all the way into the UFC. You have trained pretty much a large portion of your life for this moment to be in this promotion, and yet you only have one round of cardio and not a muscle in sight on Junior Tafa. It's pretty tough. Like, I know he's Simone or whatever, but let's have some sort of muscle mass to you. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just, it really disappoints me when fighters only have one round of cardio. It's like, do you train? Do you put an effort in the gym? What are you doing during training camp? Like, are you going hard? Are you finding ways to push yourself to where you can have good cardio for a fight? And it baffles me how some of these fighters they go through a barely even a fight, like not even a high-paced fight, and they still find a way to gas out. Like, I can understand from a genetic standpoint, like how a Edmund Shabazian is or how a Michael Chandler is. They just put so much into their strikes and they're going hard. They're going 110% from the very first sound of the bell, and then they gas out. It makes sense. But for Tafa, sometimes it feels like he's just not training hard, and that's why he's gassing out. I don't know. I'm not in his gym. But if I had to compliment him, I would say that he is a powerful guy. He has better striking than most heavyweights, I would say. He's, again, very talented. He has done kickboxing before, and you can definitely see some of that kickboxing taking fruit in some of his fights, which is very, very impressive. But I just don't feel like he's getting the most out of his career. Like, I feel like Tafa could be a way better fighter than what he is now if he just showed me that he was training very hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Junior Tafa went out there and put on some muscle mass, dropped some of that extra fat, some of that extra belly weight, did some cardio, man, and showed that into his fights, then I would think he would be a top 15 heavyweight for sure, easy. But he's just not showing me that in his fights, man. So I don't know. I like Junior Tafa, though. He's still a fun guy to watch. Just, I wish he would improve his cardio honestly. Moving on to Valter Walker. Now, Valter Walker is talented, man. Like, he has shown skill. Like, he is a skillful guy, but he just isn't skillful enough, right? It's hard for me to give a compliment without also giving a criticism. Um, he's young. His brother's good. Like, I'm sure he trains hard and he tries really hard in the gym, but I think it might just be a skill difference for Valter Walker, low key. He just beat Junior Tafa, so by a weird stoppage, but he has promise. Like, he has talent. Like, I can see the talent on Valter Walker, and maybe he will improve as time goes on. I am just kind of worried about how far that will take him. But he's good. I believe in him, but he just needs to work on his striking and everything will sort itself out. So, but moving on to Lucas Brzeski. Now, Lucas Brzeski actually makes me kind of angry because I was looking at a picture of him and he was in like a really good shape. Like, I mean, like had abs, had capped delts. Like, this dude was massive, man. And I look at him now and that's all gone. Like, that's all gone for Lucas Brzeski. Like, he has a belly on him now, some extra fat on him. Like, his shoulders aren't capped anymore. Like, maybe that just is him putting on weight for heavyweight, but I mean, go back down to light heavyweight or something, man. Like, go back down to middleweight. I don't know what weight class he can make. Like, when I watch Lucas Brzeski at heavyweight, like, he shows me that he has like real talent there, but maybe he's lacking the effort. Maybe he just wants to have a bigger physique for heavyweight, which is fine, but at that point, just move down. But I think Lucas Brzeski is very talented and kind of underrated for a heavyweight. I just wish he would get back to the shape that he was once in, man, because he was pretty yoked, man. But going on to Justin Tafa, the older brother of Junior Tafa, this is the better Tafa brother, in my opinion. Again, very powerful guy, wants to go out there and scrap, get KOs, get finishes. Love that style about Justin Tafa. I almost said Junior. Justin Tafa. One criticism, man, is kind of the same thing for his brother. I think he has shown better cardio, though, than Junior Tafa. But what worries me about Justin Tafa is like kind of like the Tai Tuivasa kind of thing, man, where it just is like, is all you really have is power? Do you not really have anything else? That's really all you have is kind of a good, powerful right hand, left hand, like you can just KO people. And that's really about it. Like, what else do you pack in your game? Which is fine. Like, sometimes all you need is just one thing to be good at and you can win in the UFC. That's not like a huge criticism of him, but I still think that some of these top heavyweights will be able to kind of either take him down or figure out what he has on the feet because he is kind of simple. But our next fighter is Mohammed Usman, Mo Usman. Guy's an athlete. Let's be real here. Guy's an athlete. Guy is strong. Guy is big. He's in shape as well. Not one of these typical heavyweights that are just kind of fat and obese. How he's actually in good shape. Not in like the best shape I've ever seen in my life, but he is like in good shape for a heavyweight. I think the bare minimum should be Mohammed Usman for a heavyweight in the UFC, which is good. Good grappling as well. Takes that from his brother. Good wrestling. Has power as well. Got a KO on Tough, I believe, for his to win Tough, actually. One criticism, though, is that I don't think he's as good as his brother, which is kind of tough to say. He's not a bad fighter, but I don't think his striking is all the way there. I feel like that's his big Achilles heel right now, is that he can't really strike for shit. He can go for takedowns, and he can take down heavyweights, which is going to probably carry him pretty far into the heavyweight division. But eventually, when he's forced to strike with some of these guys, I think that's where he's lacking the most right now. But moving on to Jamal Pogues. Now, you can't see the entirety of his physique by this picture, but Jamal Pogues is not in good shape at all, man. Like, really not. I mean, for round, he's in very good shape, but not in good shape whatsoever. I don't like when fighters have all this extra fat on them. Like, let's put on some muscle, which is not the worst thing in the world, man. Like, I know I'm making a big deal out of it, but I just wish these fighters were in better shape, man. I look at some of these NFL linemen and like, they're big dudes. Like, they put on fat, like a lot of fat, but they're not like sloppy. It's just weird, man. Like, they're like husky big dudes who have a lot of mass on them. Some D linemen are pretty fat, but for the most part, like these offensive linemen for the NFL, they at least Like you can see the muscle through their fat, you know what I mean? But with some of these heavyweights, man, it's just like you're just a big dude, you know what I'm saying? Which is pretty disappointing for Jamal Pogues. He falls into that category. But overall, again, like I feel like if he lost some weight, put on some muscle, like he'd be a good heavyweight, man. Like he has a good jab, good striking overall. Not the best, like not elite striking, but like I can see the talent there from Jamal Pogues. But I feel like just the effort into their bodies is just not there, and it really makes me upset because I see the talent and I can see how this division can take that next step with some of these fighters and be more competitive besides the top five. But none of these guys are really taking their bodies that serious. Like they have the UFC PI is free, right? I don't know if it's free or not, but the UFC PI is there. You know, I would use the UFC PI if I was a heavyweight, man. I would find ways to put on muscle, replace my fat. You know, maybe it's tough, man. I don't know how it really works, man. But Jamal Pogues, I complimented him already. I said that he has good striking, he has talent, but it just is his physique, I feel like, holds him back a lot. But moving on to our next fighter, that is Dantel May. Now, Dantel May is fun. Like he does fun stuff in the octagon. Like he does crazy, I believe, like not spinning real kicks, but he likes to be very pressure heavy, and he has fun fights in the UFC. But with him having fun fights in the UFC, what he lacks, I believe, is sometimes IQ, man. Like sometimes he makes some dumb decisions in the octagon, and that's disappointing. I forget which fight it was in particular, but I believe he was winning the fight in the third round, and then just started to do some really weird stuff on the feet, like doing like jumping teep kicks, jumping front kicks to the face, and he was gassing himself out, doing all that stuff, just doing way too much in the octagon. Yeah, it's fun to watch, but sometimes it can be too much. And I think that leads Dantel May to be sometimes a bit underwhelming. But watching him can be interesting some of the time, not all the time. Not all of his fights are super exciting, but I feel like he can put on an exciting fight whenever he does go out there and does his crazy, crazy stuff. But Dantel May's overall, not bad, not good, not amazing, not terrible. I like Dantel May for the most part. I just wish he would kind of tone it down a little bit. Just tone it down just a tad bit, which I think he has been trying to do that in his most recent fights. Good old Mick Parkin. Now, Mick Parkin is, I think, one of the better heavyweights. He has talent, good striking, good grappling defense, does clinch quite a bit. I do like Mick Parkin, but what he lacks is the power. You know what I mean? Like, just the power, man. Like, it's just tough for Mick Parkin. Not one of these guys who can put people down hard, but he can outstrike them, which is cool to see, which is actually really good to see at heavyweight when you can see fighters actually have the skill on the feet to make a difference, right? With Mick Parkin, he doesn't need KOs, no flat lines for him. He just is better than you on the feet, and that's honestly really good for me. But moving on to Marcin Buday. Marcin Buday, big guy, strong guy in the clinch, can implement his will very effectively in fights at times. Yeah, that's really about it for Marcin Buday. That's my criticism. That's all he really has. Not really a great heavyweight whatsoever. Um, Kind of a middle of the pack guy, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't hate him, but I don't love him either. Um, Again, can implement his will pretty well. I don't know with Marcin Buday, I'm sorry. But moving on to Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Now, Waldo Cortes-Acosta, I think, has improved over time. Definitely now looking like a prospect. Not like a fat heavyweight, but not like in shape like Mo Usman. Like, I don't think he passes the Mo Usman bar of being in shape for a heavyweight, but he is close enough, I would say, for myself to not critique his physique too badly. But with Waldo Cortes-Acosta, obviously knows how to mix it in, has good IQ for the most part, knows how to do what he needs to do to get a win in the UFC. When he fought, I believe, Robelis Despaigne, he knew how to get a win. He knew Robelis had a hole in his ground game, and he was able to use that effectively, if I'm remembering correctly. Overall, I think a decent fighter at heavyweight, but if I had to critique him, it's mainly about his style, man. Like, he is open to leg kicks. I believe that is his weakness. I believe when he fought Marcos Rogerio de Lima, he was getting his leg chewed up on and hasn't found a way to address that yet in his career, which is pretty disappointing. You would think that after getting your legs completely blown up by Marcos Rogerio de Lima, you would go back and get in the lab and fix that part of your game, but it seems like he still does lack that in the UFC, which is very disappointing, but I think if he does fix that, I think he'll be fine for the most part. But we move on up to Rodrigo Nascimento. Dude, some of these guys I just can't compliment. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, he's, veteran IQ guy. Like he, got big meaty hooks, Not an awful heavyweight fighter, I guess would be the best thing I could say for Rodrigo Nascimento. Again, can kind of be more crafty than some of the guys at heavyweight, and that can carry him to win. But again, look at his physique, bro. Like, it's disappointing. Yeah. But going on to Marcos Rogerio de Lima, I like Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He's an older guy, still getting his paycheck. Again, very quick guy for heavyweight, has really good low kicks, fast low kicks. He can really embarrass a heavyweight if not ready for his low kicks, which is very, very impressive for a guy his age. I believe he is getting up there, though. I believe he is 40, maybe around 40. I might be wrong, actually, but I believe he is up there in age now, which is kind of sad to see, but that's not a criticism of him. Father Time gets us all, but again, very, very good heavyweight. He can go out there and expose some guys. One criticism that I have is that he might be, now that he's getting too old, he might be a bit more frail, and I think we saw that with the Derrick Lewis performance. Took one knee. Yeah, it was a big knee from Derrick Lewis, who came running at him full speed, which is crazy, and he ate that. But he might be more frail than what he's ever been in his career because of his age. His age outright isn't a criticism, but I think his physique and body has started to fail on him a little bit because he is getting up there in age. Now, moving on to this guy. This guy, Shamil Gaziev, is actually one of the best fighters at heavyweight. We just don't know it yet. Shamil Gaziev is an elite prospect at heavyweight, man. He is something else. He is going to tear through everybody else. Rozenstruik fluked it. It was just a fluke. Rozenstruik, he got lucky against Shamil Gaziev. For some reason, Rozenstruik was immune to his mouth breathing. Didn't understand that. But Shamil Gaziev, man, he can grapple up people. You know what I'm saying? He can push forward. He can be tough. He gasses out, and he looks really not good at all, if I'm being honest with you. But he's a tough guy. Very, very tough guy. Yeah. But moving on ahead to Alexander Romanov. Now, Alexander Romanov, at one point, man, I was really proud of this guy. Like in a father way, I guess. No. But I was really hyped on Romanov because he was in way better shape when he first came into the UFC, man. Now he just kind of put on a bunch of fat, and now he's just not good anymore. I don't know what happened to Alexander Romanov. When he first came into the UFC, man, he was just taking down people with ease, finishing them. I think he had one really crazy fight that I think it was a draw, but then he quit. But then he gave up and quit on another fight. I don't know what happened to Romanov is what I'm trying to say here. That's my criticism. I don't know what happened to him, man. He just I don't know what happened to him in his career. I thought he'd be better than this, but he turns out I don't know what happened. It's crazy. But for my compliment, I would go ahead and just say that Romanov has good grappling, and he can really put somebody down. Like, he has almost that Chimaev level style where if he gets you down early, be careful because he might just finish you. Good old Derrick Lewis. I like me some Derrick Lewis. Now, when it comes to Derrick Lewis, I think we all have the same kind of criticism for him. He's just way too simple on the feet, very plotty, walks forward. Yeah, it just is. Can't really do much outside of that. No hip flexibility whatsoever on Derrick Lewis. He did get into shape at one point, which is, credit to him. I really do like that from Derrick Lewis, getting into shape for a fight against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, which was, again, a very impressive performance by him. So, for my criticism of Derrick Lewis, very plotty, very simple, but with that simple style, does pack one hell of a punch, man. Like, he has some of the best power in the heavyweight division. He puts people down. If he lands on you clean, you're probably going down. Very fun fighter to watch. Is getting up there in age now, but overall, Derrick Lewis is a fan favorite of mine for sure, and of many people, I would assume. But yeah, just very plotty guy. Now for Tai Tuivasa. Now, again, compliments, we'll get that out the way real quick. Tai Tuivasa, very fun guy. Fun style, very fun personality, very cool dude. Seems like a really, really nice guy in real life. Overall, willing to go out there and bang it out, trade in the pocket. I'm always going to watch a Tai Tuivasa fight, no matter what, because he's going to bring that entertainment with his fights, which is very respectable from him. However, again, kind of like that plotty style. He doesn't use low kicks enough for my liking. I think he can be more effective with his low kicks, but he just doesn't use it sometimes. I don't want to call him a quitter because I don't think he's a quitter whatsoever, but sometimes when he's losing a fight, I think he kind of knows like, fuck, it's getting pretty much done for me. I can't take much more of this if this fight goes on. He pushes through it sometimes, which is why I'm not calling him a quitter. I don't think he's a quitter. You can see a mood or a body language change in him quite often in his fights, which is kind of upsetting. So again, another very simple style, plotty, moves forward. Does good work in the clinch, though, with his elbows. So I do like that from Tai Tuivasa, but sometimes he disappoints, which I hate saying because I do love Tai Tuivasa. I love watching his fights. I'm always going to tune in for a Tai Tuivasa fight, but, it is what it is. Moving on ahead, though, to Marcin Tybura. Now, Tybura is kind of underrated, man, honestly. Kind of underrated. Good grappling, good everywhere, honestly, but, can be chinned. Kind of a bigger heavyweight with physique-wise, it does upset me. Good grappling, though, good striking, can be a gatekeeper of heavyweight, which is a compliment in this context. But when it comes to Marcin Tybura, doesn't do much outside of that, let's be honest here. I feel like he is just maybe average at every single aspect of MMA, right? Average at grappling, average at striking, just average in cardio, for the most part. I feel like he's just average in every single aspect, which to me is a criticism. So now Sergey Spivak, I do like, kind of, maybe, I don't know. But he's improving, as a compliment to him, he's improving. We've seen him take down some fighters. It feels like his gas tank and his jiu-jitsu is actually paying dividends for him into his UFC career. He is getting better quite consistently with every single fight that I've watched him up to this point, which is really good for a guy his age. Don't think he's too old either. I believe he's in his late 20s. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think he's too old yet. Might be in his prime. So overall, bright future, I believe, for Sergey Spivak. However, again, good grappling, but not that good at the striking. That's where things kind of dip off for Sergey Spivak. Just can't strike, man. Just can't strike. It sucks. Has fought Tom Aspinall, though. Got killed by him. No shame in that. But, again, got to work on that striking, man. God, this has been a long video so far of me recording. You should like this video if you're watching it. But, moving on to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Again, can go out there, can be a good gatekeeper, can prevent these guys who are kind of frauds from being in the top 15 at heavyweights. Overall, a very talented guy. A very, very talented guy. Can beat guys who he should beat. If you don't try to take down Rozenstruik, odds are he can probably beat you on the feet. He can't be chin, though, which is kind of, but overall, he beats guys who he should beat, which is a good thing. Like, I'm never ever like, oh no, Rozenstruik got upset by this guy. Like, he just was a big favorite and he lost. I don't feel that way towards Rozenstruik. I feel like he beats guys he should beat and loses to guys who he should lose to, which would be my criticism for him, is that he loses to guys who he should lose to. Doesn't do anything too special besides the striking. Can't really grapple. Tough part about Rozenstruik there, but overall, not a bad fighter. Okay. But moving on ahead to Jailton Almeida. Now, Jailton Almeida, give him a compliment here. Jailton Almeida is smart. Smart dude. Smart cookie here, because I think he realized that these heavyweights don't know how to grapple, have no grappling defense, and he took full advantage of that because he's a natural light heavyweight, man. He could cut down to light heavyweight and be totally fine in that division, but I think he realized there was a skill difference up at heavyweight, and if he could not have to cut weight and put on a bit of mass, and him already having the physique he has and the talent that he has, it's just easy money at heavyweight. So for Jailton Almeida, everything besides the Curtis Blaydes fight has been easy money for him. And he was actually winning that Curtis Blaydes fight before he just got elbowed to death pretty much. Not Not literally, just figuratively. In-game only, YouTube, in-game only. Everything besides that Curtis Blaydes fight, he has looked like a monster in, because he just is that much better than these guys at heavyweight. But with that being said, dude, get some finishes. Like, I know he just finished his last opponent, I believe, but oh my God, man, let's not sit in full mount on Derrick Lewis and just do nothing for 5 rounds and make an absolute boring fight. Can be boring is my criticism. Can be very much boring. Can just hold a body lock and just spam takedowns and do no damage with it, which is really disappointing for a guy like Jailton Almeida, who is just genetically better than everybody there at heavyweight. So, yeah, whatever. He pisses me off sometimes, but it is what it is. Curtis Blaydes. I like Curtis Blaydes, man. Curtis Blaydes is like me, has a stutter. Not really. I don't really have one, kind of do, whatever. But he has a stutter, which I guess is a criticism. But, you know, in that aspect, we're brothers, so it is what it is. Curtis Blaydes does everything well, right? And I think he's like a... Who did I mention before that said does everything well? I forget who it is. Like a Marcin Tybura. He's like a way better version of a Marcin Tybura. Like, he does everything pretty well, but he does that better. Like, it's more of like a, not elite, but like an above average of everything else, right? Like, his wrestling is good. Not great, but good. His striking is good. Not great, but good. You know what I mean? His chin can be iffy sometimes, but he can tough it out when he needs to. You know what I mean? He can take a punch when he needs to. Besides that Derrick Lewis fight, you know, like, he can take a punch when he needs to. And the Tom Aspinall fight, but that might have been. I don't think he was all the way out there in that Tom Aspinall fight. Yeah, he got put down, but he wasn't like completely unconscious. So, and it's Tom Aspinall as well. A guy has power. So, but with that being said, like, he does get kind of lost in what he wants to do sometimes. I feel like I've heard this somewhere as well. But when it comes to Curtis Blaydes, let's say for his last fight, he finishes a guy with the hands, like with Chris Dawkins. It seems like he just falls in love with throwing the hands, and then he forgets about his wrestling. And then his next opponent is a guy who he should wrestle, but since he just got a KO, he wants to fight on the feet, which then he loses, which kind of speaks to the IQ of Curtis Blaydes, but he likes just mixing things up, and he just doesn't mix it up at the right times against certain opponents. Like, he can just change his game plan sometimes and be effective, but he just doesn't, which is, you know, it's Curtis Blaydes. It is what it is. Sergei Pavlovich, Salty Pavlovich, Salt Lav, whatever nickname you have for him. Very powerful guy. Highest ape index in the UFC. Ape index, sorry. Very strong dude. Good jab. Good striking for the most part. But that's it. You know what I mean? If he can't chin you, then he probably isn't better than you in the striking, which is kind of the issue with Pavlovich. Like with the Volkov fight, we just saw that if he just can't chin you and you can stay safe and be on the back foot versus him, you can probably easily outstrike Pavlovich, which is, it sucks for him, but again, was an exciting fighter for a good bit of time, was finishing everybody in the first round. He is a must-watch guy at heavyweight, honestly. Good physique, not one of these fat heavyweights, which I really do like about Pavlovich. But other than that, sometimes he got exposed a little bit by Volkov, I ain't gonna lie. And now that I mentioned Volkov, he's our next fighter on this list. Volkov, I am really impressed with Volkov throughout his last few fights, man. Throughout his UFC career, honestly, because at one point he was just a skinny guy. He was tall at heavyweight, but he put on muscle, became Swolkov, has improved over and over and over again. He's fighting Ciryl Gane, and I know he lost to Ciryl Gane, but I think this is a different version of Volkov. I think it's a better version of Volkov, and I think he has steadily improved throughout his UFC career, which is very, very impressive for a guy that is aging in his career. But Volkov, very fun guy to watch. He can get wins, nice back tattoo, cool dude, knows good English, which is surprising, but he's been in the US for a very long time now, I would say. So it makes sense why he would speak good English now. I do like Volkov a lot. If I had to criticize him, it's not much to criticize for Volkov right now. I think when he loses, it's just a talent difference, which is something that he can't really fix unless it just gets better, like just genetically gets better, which is not something I can really criticize for Volkov. I don't want to say like get good kid for Volkov because I think he is getting good kid. It just does. Sometimes there's some fighters who are just better than him, which is a crazy thing to say, but I can't really criticize him that much, man. Honestly, he's not a perfect fighter by any means, but there's just not much, like, there's not much good constructive criticism I have for Volkov. But moving on to our next fighter, and that is good old fashioned Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane, to criticize him, I wish he would take his UFC career more seriously, because he could be champion, but he doesn't put in enough of effort in training camp, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure at one point, it might have been wrong, but there's a rumor going about Ciryl Gane that he just wasn't training for a good bit of time. I don't know what the rumor was exactly, but there was a rumor that came out about him and him being kind of lazy. That's all alleged. Don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, he just I feel like the whole movie thing in France and him taking all this time off and not working on his grappling at all has made him a guy who'll never be champion in the UFC, honestly. If he doesn't ever take this seriously and focus on his grappling defense, he'll never be champion. But outside of that, just looking at Ciryl Gane in a vacuum to compliment him, like, he is what a heavyweight should be, man. Like, his physique, his muscle mass is what a heavyweight should be. Like, I think every heavyweight should look like Ciryl Gane. Like, not to his extent, right? But should have a relative close physique to Ciryl Gane, which might be too high of expectations because he does have one of the most better physiques in the UFC. But I think there shouldn't be, I think Ciryl Gane should be up here and the next guy should be like right here. But I feel like Jamal Pogues is like all the way like off the screen with his physique compared to Ciryl Gane, which I think shouldn't be the case for any sort of heavyweight. Good striking, very educated, great footwork, really great footwork. Can beat a lot of guys at heavyweight because he has such good footwork. Just all he needs to do is work on his grappling defense, honestly. But now with Stipe Miocic, this one's probably the easiest compliment of my life. Stipe, obviously, heavyweight GOAT, has had a great career, insane career, legend, Hall of Famer. Very easy compliment for Miocic. Probably one you haven't heard before, honestly. But to criticize him, not really his fault, honestly. It kind of is the UFC's fault for booking him versus Jon Jones. So I can't really criticize him for that. Obviously, if I was in his position, I would take a title shot if somebody offered it to me no matter what. So yeah, I can't criticize him for that. But he's getting up there in age, man. 40-something years old. Chin is kind of gone now. It sucks for Stipe, but I think he should have retired after he lost to Ngannou. Or he could have just took some time off and then got right back in there. But his taking time off has been 4 years, which is insane. I don't know, man. It is what it is when it comes to Stipe. Not much I can criticize when it comes to him. I could get really nitpicky with him and go into style, but he's a legend, man. I can't really do that. Now for a heavyweight champion, that is Jon Jones. Now, I could really go in on Jon Jones here, but we'll stick to just the basics. Roy cheat, wife beater, is ducking Tom Aspinall. There's plenty of criticisms for Jon Jones, but if I have to compliment this man, I don't want to, but if I have to compliment him, got a legacy. Yeah. That's it for Jon Jones. I'm not giving this guy much of anything because, bro, some good finishes in his career, I guess. Dana White loves you, Dana White's a crazy for Jon Jones. I guess it is a pretty good thing to have one of the most powerful guys in the UFC be your biggest glazer. So good for Jon Jones. Dana White, wipe your mouth when you're done. Yeah. It for Jon Jones. But moving on to our final guy, the true heavyweight champion of the sport, Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall, when it comes to his striking ability, really good. Grappling game, jiu-jitsu, really good. Tom Aspinall is great. Should be the champion. Should be fighting Jon Jones next. He's not, which sucks. But overall, Tom Aspinall, I believe, is the rightful heir to the heavyweight championship of the UFC. To criticize him, I am worried about his chin. I'm not insanely worried about it because when it comes to Tom Aspinall, there's not much really there to criticize him for besides maybe he's too much of a nice guy when it comes to Jon Jones. I wish he would just say, Jon Jones, fight me or else, or else you're just something I can't see on YouTube, but you're just a bitch, Jon Jones. That's better word I can use. But yeah, I'm worried about his chin maybe. He does leave his hands down quite a bit. He can be, his chin is wide open to be hit by somebody who can be a powerful puncher and probably put him down. That's about it though for Tom Aspinall. Like, he's been pretty much almost perfect throughout his entire career. Just sometimes we see him have his chin up there a little bit too much, and it gets a bit worrying. But other than that, he's been very, very good in the UFC, obviously. So yeah, Tom Aspinall. Holy shit! It's been about an hour of me recording this video. Probably be like a half an hour long video. Honestly, I probably cut out a bunch of it. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's it for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, bell icon for notifications. My throat is done. It's going to be sore in the morning. I've talked way too much today. But yeah, I'll see you later. Peace.